Life Audio.
Welcome to today's Crosswalk Devotional. We are so glad to have you listening here with us today. Today's topic is suffering and how God draws closer to us in our suffering. We will return after this brief message from our sponsors. How Suffering Brings Us to God's Presence. Written by Sarah Fraser. Read by Rochelle Alberti. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Psalm 46:1, ESV. There is a moment in the classic book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, when two of the characters are faced with devastating circumstances. Lewis describes it by saying, "I hope no one who read this book has been quite as miserable as Susan and Lucy were that night. But if you have been, if you've been up all night and cried till you have no more tears left in you, you will know that there comes, in the end, a sort of quietness. You feel as if nothing was ever going to happen again." When I read those words, I wept, because I too have been like those characters. I'd suffered through nights of such intense sorrow that I felt my heart would melt and my tears would drown me. In many cases, my tears ended up soaking my pillow to the point where I'd have to turn it over. Whether you are a Christian or not, we've all experienced some type of suffering. If you and I would sit down together, across the table maybe, with cups of tea or coffee, we would share about the suffering each of us have faced. Our presence together provides a sense of shared grief that helps us. Psalm 46 is a powerful psalm that speaks about suffering. What I love about this psalm is the answer to our suffering is God's presence. The very first verse talks about God being near. It says that in all of our troubles, God is a very present help. ESV. The word present means both time and space. God, who lives outside of time, entered into it in the beginning of Genesis. In the beginning, God. Our mighty, awesome, transcendent God entered into time for us. That word present also means space. God is also physically, spiritually, and emotionally close to us. He is near us physically. The Bible references God being near to us several times. Psalms 145:18, Psalm 34:18, Philippians 4:5-7, and James 4:8. When we find ourselves suffering, we want God to come in and fix it. I know I've prayed for diseases to be cured, grief to be comforted, and miracles to take place in the hearts of the people I love. God sometimes answers yes. But sometimes God has a different plan than my plan. The hard truth is this: life is filled with suffering. Instead of focusing on how God doesn't answer our prayers or how life doesn't turn out the way we had planned, God invites us to a deeper, more intimate relationship with Him. God draws closer to us in our suffering. He sits with us in our grief and sorrow. Depression has been my companion for almost 15 years. In this suffering, I have found a deeper intimacy with God than ever before. God has not answered my prayer to be free from sorrow and depression. Instead, He's given me something that is so much better: His presence. In Psalm 46:7, we read, "The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." EVS. My suffering has revealed the true character of God, and it has become the thing that brings me the most joy in my life. In this verse, the psalmist says that God is a Lord of hosts. This means He's in charge of angel armies. This God, who is all-powerful, is with us. According to this verse, He is close. God is also described to be the God of Jacob. This is a personal God who knows all about us. This God, who is deeply personal, is our fortress. In this verse, we see a personal God who is all-powerful, a powerful God who is incredibly personal. In God's presence, we find out who He really is. Over the years of suffering, I've seen that we have a God who is both good and all-sovereign. When suffering threatens our faith, causes us to doubt, may we run back to God at His presence. It is there we find truths to comfort our hearts. If you find yourself with sorrow and suffering too hard to bear, run to God. He is a present, safe, and powerful God who is ready to comfort you. Find Him in the pages of the Bible. Intersecting faith and life. When suffering threatens your faith in God, how does knowing God's presence is always with you comfort your heart? Further reading: Philippians 4, 5-7, Psalm 139, verses 7 through 10, Isaiah 55, 6, Psalm 145, 18, Psalm 34, 18.
The Crosswalk Devotional is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.